Hello, you all. I'm Diana Brienne, caregiving, taking care of an elderly parent or taking care of a sick parent. You know, I took care of my mom for about 3 years. I was very, very close to my mom. She was my best friend. And she began to get Parkinson's symptoms when she was visiting me. She lived in California, and I was living in my home in Georgia. And she came to visit me. My kids were very small at the time. And I said, Mom, your jaw is shaking when you are resting. I said, I want you to go to the doctors. And she went to the doctors and they called it tremors. And I called him back up and I said, no, I think she has Parkinson's. Please send her to a neurologist. So and long story short, she went to a neurologist and they diagnosed her with Parkinson's. Later on, I believe she got what was called ALS, and this is towards the end of her life. She was 84 when she came to live with me. Up until that point, she had driven a car. The summer before she came to live with me, I went out to California. We were living in Texas, and I went out there and I basically took the car off of her and gave it to one of her friends because the friend was really good to her and she wanted to give the car to the friend because she was really no longer safe to drive. But she didn't want to come with me. She didn't want to move with me, and she had her mind. But over the next couple of months from that summer, she began to fall down, drop the phone. She lived from her phone calls and emails to me, but her emails just got so short. And every time we would talk, she would apologize that she had to hang up because she couldn't hold the phone anymore. So at that point, I sent my husband out there to get her, and not realizing that by then she was in diapers and she'd been using diapers. And he brought her back to Texas, and we were getting ready to move back to Georgia, to a town we'd never been to. And I had 3 very small children at the time, and I think they were 5, 6, and 7, and I was homeschooling on top of that. So my mom comes to live with me, and of course it was very traumatic for her to leave her familiarity and come stay with me and then move across country. And she was falling down, and mentally she was not in good shape. And here I had 3 small children, homeschooling, moving across country, and it was very, very exhausting, to put it mildly. But I did an excellent job with her. I love my mother. I would do it all over again, taking care of her. My sister couldn't help me at the time, so it was all on me. My husband was traveling, and we moved to this new town, and they wouldn't accept California insurance. The hospital did, but when we tried to get her into a rehab hospital, they wouldn't accept it. So back with me she came, falling down, and it was just a very, very difficult time. And so the Parkinson's continued to ravage her body and what was believed to be ALS over time. And she couldn't eat, she couldn't stand. And I no longer could take care of her in my home after about 2 years. And at some point she went back to the hospital because she had to have a stomach tube. And when they did that, the doctor suggested she go to the nursing home because for me, I couldn't leave her at home by herself because she couldn't walk at that point. But yet I had 3 small children that I had to, be there for them and take them back and forth to places. And so we opted to put her in a nursing home, which was very heart-wrenching for me to do. But the nursing home was an hour and a half away. So in the morning I would go up with my children and we would visit grandma and sit on the edge of her bed. But at night I went up by myself, and these were all back southern roads, dark roads. So I was by myself at night, coming and going on these roads for an hour and a half. And at one point I was so exhausted I had to pull alongside the road. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to reduce this down to 2 times a week instead of twice a day, every day, an hour and a half each way. And so I did. And I called the nurse's station constantly. They knew I was a presence in her life, so they took really great care of her. And it's so important to have an advocate for your elderly parent. And I was a great advocate. And I love my mom. I loved her so much. But she began to get severe dementia at that point. And that was just awful to see her like that. And her body just began to deteriorate. And, I would go over and hold her hand every day and tell her I loved her. And then I remember they sent her back to the main hospital. And when she was there, I went constantly there. And I went home, and about midnight they called me and said she was going to pass. And I kind of sensed that a couple days before, which just seemed totally surreal and unreal to me, especially the person that I love the most in my life. And so I went to go over to the hospital, and they called me back and said she had passed. And it just, was beyond anything. I couldn't believe it, that it happened. And so somebody who I'd loved my whole life and had been there for me, and that I'd been there for them. And so I'm so grateful that I took care of my mother, but I can tell you that it was exhausting, totally mentally, physically exhausting. And I was balancing so much more in my life besides taking care of her and overseeing her care. And I wasn't taking care of myself physically. And I did get sick about 2 years later, which was probably unrelated, and that was a whole nother video called Brain Aneurysm. But so go look for that one if you want to watch it. But I think a lot of things happen sometimes when we're exhausted and tired and worn out. And so I would do things differently in the sense that I would have tried to find someone who could have stepped in and helped me during that time in one way or the other. I would have rested more. It was almost impossible to rest more. I had baby monitors, and I was running up and down steps to make sure she was okay because we had a mother-in-law suite. And I never really slept in those 3 years much. And so I was exhausted, and I don't think I ever looked any worse than I did in that time because I just was really tired. But I did a great job for her, for my kids, for everybody else, but I didn't do such a great job for me, and it really took its toll on me at that time physically. And so I'm great now, but I would recommend to all caregivers, get rest, recharge, have people help you if at all possible, and really be proud of yourself for doing such a great job taking care of an elderly parent or a sick person or a sick spouse or whomever you're taking care of. You are amazing. And I can tell you that I'm grateful that I did it. Would I do some things differently? Sure. Like I said, I would take better care of myself during that time. But, looking back, it's 2020, it's hindsight, and we can all look back in clarity in hindsight. So being a caregiver is a wonderful thing, but it's also a very exhausting thing. So take care of yourself. From my house to yours. Talk to you soon. And make sure to subscribe to my page. Bye-bye.